Hi, a very warm welcome to a fresh new week of wellbeing opportunities. I hope you're feeling extremely well, and I'm delighted you could join me on this beautiful sunny afternoon. I'm just taking a break from the routine to share an idea with you that I hope will prove to be useful and practical in terms of improving the quality of your life, because the simple fact about us, we are complex creatures, but we all have biases. Yeah, we do. We all have prejudices, which means that we react instantly to situations and people without taking the time to really think things through. In many ways, our brains are hardwired to respond this way. If we had to stop and consider every situation we encounter, we'd never pass go, we'd never get anything done, we'd be constantly stuck in this cycle of overanalysis. But the fact is that our tendency to jump in with our predetermined set of prejudices often gets in the way of our ability to think clearly. It affects our critical thinking. There are so many examples from our history in the world of science where researchers have come up with a brilliant discovery, and the conventional scientific community has just said, no, 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 that's not possible because it contradicts what we believe. And this is the problem, because within this framework of confirmation bias, we're only really open to ideas that conform to our view of how the world works. On a personal level, you may have made a decision about somebody which could have been perfectly relevant and even viable at the time, but it colours the relationship to the point where that person cannot be seen in anything other than the light of our own judgment and experiences. So, this way of jumping in with our ready-made conclusions can get in the way of our ability to see things clearly. We don't let the facts, the data, interfere with our view of what is true and what is not. Why is this relevant? Well, the fact is that we are being manipulated all the time by social media. Social media has been designed to either trigger a pleasure response or to create a reaction of fear, both of which make the experience fairly addictive. We tend to gravitate towards social media news outlets that conform to what we find comfortable. In other words, whatever our biases, we will gravitate towards data that support that particular view of the world. And we are constantly exposed to, let's call them stories, that will help us to feel more comfortable because they confirm what we suspect or what we already believe. And that's a problem, because we are exposed to so much misinformation that it's very easy for us to accept the bias or prejudice views we're exposed to as being somehow real or true. The question is, how do we get around it? Yes, I know, it would be wonderful if we could impose fines on social media outlets for telling lies, for broadcasting misinformation. Wouldn't that be good? But from an individual point of view, one of the things that would be very helpful is if we can learn to pause during the day, or even when we're reading or absorbing a piece of material, and just stop to ask, what is the underlying message? Why are they presenting this information? Perhaps more importantly, how is that information being delivered? Because there are plenty of clues once you stop to consider how the information has been crafted into a story. When you spot the emotional content in a story, it should raise alarm bells, because we are being manipulated. It's quite deliberate. It's quite obvious. The important part about this message is that when you stop to consider how that message is being delivered, you begin to use a different part of your brain. Rather than the pleasure or the fear centers, your analytical faculties can start to consider the quality of the information. Is this a story? Well, yeah. Why are they using those words? And the moment you begin to consider the story from a logical perspective, you break the chain of continuity. You break free from this cycle of confirmation bias. You have an opportunity to consider things more critically, rationally, logically. That just breaks the cycle. There is a lot less emotion in your reaction and more cold-blooded, objective, logical appreciation. And that can help to cast the event into a different light. This applies just as much to people as it does to events, but it's a way for us to break free from this chain of manipulation that we're all exposed to. It takes a little effort, it takes a little more time, but the upside is that it will help you to break free from the tendency to conform to your own prejudices. We all have biases. It's only when we recognize that we are producing our reactions and views of the world based on those biases that we get a chance to consider them in a more interesting light. And then we can let perhaps facts and raw information guide our conclusions, or even come to the point where we don't have enough information to understand the situation. Wouldn't that be good? We could say, I need to learn more about this. I need more information before I come to a conclusion. This is a great way to help to break the cycle of prejudiced, biased misinformation that is absolutely everywhere. It's quite extraordinary. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know what you feel. Your feedback is always deeply appreciated. And in the meantime, as I head off back to put on a shirt and go into a meeting, allow me to wish you a wonderful week. I'll be back with you soon.